Right, bam, James. Oh. So, a young man has written in to the Zero podcast, a fan of the show, you might say. His name is James Hendry. And he's requested the subject of cardio. Why did you suggest cardio?
Because there's too many powerlifters that get tired walking.
Okay, he says there's too many powerlifters that get tired walking. So cardio for powerlifters is an interesting topic because you tend to see people sitting at either end of the spectrum, really anti-cardio and really pro-cardio for like health and stuff. And I guess the first question that you have to raise is like, is cardiovascular training going to impact your training negatively? Because that's where all the hoopla and the hocus pocus around like cardio is bad if you're a lifter. You can't go for a run or you can't go for a walk or anything like that because it's going to impact your ability to train. And that in and of itself is just silly. Like if that was the case, then how would a lifter who is a nurse who's literally walking all day going to perform at their highest level? It's like the notion that cardio is actively going to hold you back is just kind of ridiculous and a kind of a self-deprecating attitude. Really, cardio is going to be a great thing and it is going to be a great thing for your general health. I think where it kind of gets blown out of proportion in the other direction is people who think cardio is going to help their performance. That is, they get confused behind the idea or the principle of like general physical preparedness, general fitness, and cardiovascular fitness. So if you are doing 5 sets of 5 and you're getting really puffed out, getting better at walking around the block probably isn't actually going to impact your ability to do 5x5 without getting puffed out. Your fitness is specific to the task. So you can get fitter at walking around the block or running without impacting upon your other training endeavors. But that doesn't necessarily, it's going to impact your training endeavors in a positive manner because it's not specific enough to the task. If you want to get better at doing 5x5, you build work capacity and conditioning in the gym using shorter rest periods or higher rep sets or higher volumes, etc. So I guess it becomes a question of like, where is the negative impact and where is the positive impact in either direction? For me, cardio for the powerlifter is a no-brainer. I think every person in general should be including some sort of cardiovascular fitness as part of their daily habits or regimes or routines or weekly habits, regimes or routines. And it doesn't need to be high intensity, but I think in terms of general health, we should be staying relatively fit from a cardiovascular perspective. I don't like to use myself for an example, but I walk for at least an hour and a half every morning with my dog, and oftentimes more than that with multiple walks across the day and being on my feet at the gym. And it has never really impacted my performance negatively, and I'll keep this routine all the way up until a competition. I'll walk the day before a competition with no worries whatsoever because it's not high enough impact to influence my training. If I was doing high intensity interval training, that would be a different story. So it's only when cardiovascular endeavors start to impact training in a negative fashion that you might need to look at changing your routine to accommodate. And that only really needs to happen when you start going heavy. So if you're doing general off-season training, for lack of a better term, there's no reason why you can't be doing relatively high-intensity cardio. It only becomes when your primary goal becomes expressing your max strength that you should really start to assess, okay, is this cardio training that I'm doing negatively impacting what I want to achieve in the gym? And if it is, then it's time to change that thing for a little while. Is that kind of answering the question? Like, people really complain about, or people get really funny about hearing, a powerlifter has gone for a run. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to run and do powerlifting and make great progress at both and make the best progress in powerlifting while still being relatively fit and active outside of that. It becomes a slightly different story when you're bigger. So the people who are really big, if you've got like a 140 kilo powerlifter, it might be relatively negative to be doing high impact cardio in terms of stress on joints. So like a 140 kilo dude going for a run on concrete probably isn't going to have the best time. But there's no reason why that same person can't jump on a recumbent bike and do half an hour of bike work a day or half an hour of row work a day, which is really low impact and going to benefit them from the perspective of cardiovascular health. There's several benefits to doing general, like low impact cardio. There's benefits in terms of getting blood flowing, so active recovery. There's meditative benefits. You feel really good after doing a walk. It helps you de-stress. A lot of people get a lot of thinking done on their cardio endeavors, whether it's walking or jumping on a bike or whatever it may be. It's good for just general habit and routine. And of course, the main thing is just the long-term health benefit. What do you think stops people from doing cardio?
It's just I reckon it's an easy cop-out.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of general rhetoric around like what being a powerlifter is and what it means, and it's just like, I'm a powerlifter now I don't have to do cardio. It's like, why? Why? I mean, like, no one has to do anything, but why would being a powerlifter stop you from doing cardio? That doesn't make any sense. Especially when you look at powerlifting training in general, it's actually pretty low impact in terms of we train for 8 to 10 hours a week tops, if not less than that, in order to be peak performance in our sport. You look at other sporting endeavors, look at a high-level sprinter or a high-level swimmer or something like that, they're literally training 8 hours a day. Like our training is so low impact, most of our training is rest. What's the issue with doing a bit of cardio? It's really not going to impact you that much. I think the other thing a lot of people do is we'll add cardio in doses that are quite high and see a negative impact and forget that there's scale with this stuff. So if you add 30-minute sprints 4 times a week, that's a relatively high dose. Like, you imagine if you added 15-minute sprints for the same amount of time, that's literally half the dose. Look at that in any other context. That would be like taking 4 shots of coffee in your morning coffee rather than 2 shots. That's going to have a significantly different impact on you. And so if you've added cardio and you've had a negative experience in terms of your performance, maybe you need to take a step back and look at, what was the dose? Did I add 2 hours of cardio a day, 7 days a week? Maybe start with 15 minutes a day. That's a significantly lower dose. It's something that you can play around with. Or have you added this cardiovascular activity in and not accounted for anything else? Have you increased the amount of food that you are eating? If you haven't, and now you're starting to exist in a calorie deficit, of course your performance is going to be impacted. You know, a lot of people will also look at cardio only in the context of, you do cardio when you want to lose fat or you want to lose weight. That's not the way that we should be looking at it. We should be looking at it in terms of, like, what's it going to add for us? What benefits does it bring to the table, which is going to be long-term health. And if you're healthy, you feel good, you sleep better, you've got more incentive to eat better, you'll perform better and you'll lift more weights. Like, for me, pretty much all the boxes to tick when it comes to cardio are positive. The only time it becomes negative is when you make it negative by either having too high a dose or not accounting for other factors in your own training to offset what you're doing with your cardio. I think that's all there is to say on the matter. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's it.
Sweet. Well, that's good. Perfect length. Hope that helped. If you have any ideas on topics that you want to talk about, just flick us a message. Always happy to talk about anything. We'll catch you next time.